Bonjour et bienvenue à Québec, Québec, Canada. Vous écoutez présentement le podcast du Radio Vagabond.
Meet Palle Bo, a digital nomad from Denmark on an epic journey around the world. At the age of 50, he made a bold decision. He sold everything, his house, his car, his furniture, and set out with a quest to visit every single country in the world, documenting everything along the way. This is the Radio Vagabond podcast.
I left Toronto, but I'm still in Canada. And all of a sudden, everybody's speaking French. The signs are in French. The shop names are in French. The people speak French. They do speak English as well, but with this charming French accent. I've arrived to Quebec City, and right now, even though there's a chopper right on top of my head, it is a charming, smaller place than Toronto.
He answers quiet, it's really killing that he's so willing to make a whoopee. Merci, thank you. You guitar player?
What?
Are you a guitar player?
I used to be 30 years ago, but no, not anymore. I know 2 songs. So that's my repertoire.
That's better than no songs.
Exactly. I know the typical House of Rising Sun and stuff
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
okay.
What's your name?
Bob.
Bob. You used to live in Toronto, and I just came from there. Can you explain in a few words the difference between being in Toronto and being here?
Toronto, very, very busy, 401, and 20 lanes or something, you know.
Yeah.
And Quebec, well, kind of look at the spot here, lovely.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Yeah.
The St. Lawrence, and
So you retired, and on a Sunday you just sit here with your guitar.
and play a few tunes, old tunes from the 40s, you know. Nothing, no Madonna.
Yeah, so nice. Thank you. In Quebec City, I rented a single room on Airbnb in the basement of Mark's house. He's another cool guy that I feel lucky I got to meet. So Mark, we're here in your back patio, and it's so lovely weather now and so relaxing. Is this the normal weather for a May day in Quebec?
No, really not. We're kind of lucky today. It is a beautiful day, especially this year. Winter has made itself like needed, wanted, but we're getting there.
Does it get very cold in the winter?
Well, it depends on what you think of cold. Let's say it can, not every day, but it can go down to minus 35. And with the wind factor, it goes to minus 45. So yes, it can be cold, I guess.
And we're talking centigrades.
Yes, we are. Yes.
This place, the old part of Quebec City, or just called Old Quebec, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's the historical core of Quebec City, and we have them all over Europe, but this is the only walled city north of Mexico. Both the French and the English regimes have left their mark in this part of the city, which is remarkably well preserved after 400 years. Today I've been strolling through the narrow streets, and if you take away all the tourists and the helicopter that is, for some reason, always hovering over us, it's like traveling back in time. It's an absolutely lovely way to spend a Sunday afternoon, and the fact that the sun is shining today only makes the experience much better. You are listening to the Radio Vagabond podcast. If you like what you hear, please leave a review in iTunes. If you're listening on an iPhone, you can actually do it right there within your podcast app. And now, back to the show. But now I've been in Toronto, and that's in the region Ontario, and now I'm in the Quebec region and in Quebec City. How is Quebec different from Ontario?
Ooh, how much time do we have?
There is a difference?
There's a whole lot of difference. It's actually almost two countries.
Well, apart from the obvious, the language thing.
Yeah, of course, there is the language, but we're so much more into the left part of the politics, let's say it like that, to simplify and make it faster as an answer. But, you know, like Quebec was the first place on earth where gays could marry and have
Really?
kids.
I would
Yes.
think that might have been Denmark.
Actually, no, it was Quebec.
Good for you.
We were the first place on earth where women could vote. You know, and so on, stuff like
Well, that was a mistake.
That's your say. No, I'm proud of that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I think I was lucky and privileged to be born here, actually.
And the only place north of Mexico with a town wall. I know. I did the research.
Okay.
It says so on Wikipedia. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'm sure you're right. You did your research. But, you know, I'm not so much into walls and the army and stuff. To me, it's all... Being a North American and not from the U.S., guns and walls for me are weird. They are. If you're from New York, you've seen a rifle, an assault rifle, many times in your life. The first time I ever saw an assault rifle close to me in real life, not in the movies, was when I traveled to France in '86. But before that, I had never seen an assault rifle all of my life. It's laid back here.
Yeah, well, is the lifestyle also more laid back?
Well, you're especially right now, you're in Quebec City, and there is this small aura of laid-back rhythm to Quebec City. I'm a Montrealer of birth, and I grew up there and lived most of my life in Montreal. I love Montreal. I profoundly love Montreal for its difference, for the cosmopolitan part of it. But Quebec City has nice air to breathe, time to live, and you can almost walk to anywhere. You know, that's kind of light. It's nice.
Okay, let's do a history lesson. I've been doing a lot of extensive research on Quebec on Wikipedia, and I've learned that it was founded officially in 1605 by a French explorer, but another French explorer built a fort here in 1535, so the French history goes even further back. A few years later, in 1629, it was handed over to the English, then back to the French. But seriously, it was not that big a deal, because in 1665, there was only 550 people living here in 70 houses. Almost 100 years later, in 1759, it was captured by the British. A year later, the French took it back. 3 years later, the French gave it to the British. And for the next 100 years, it was under British rule. Canada got their own independence and their constitution exactly 150 years ago, but the British mark is still here. It's still part of the British Commonwealth, and Queen Elizabeth is still on their money here in Canada. This fortress I mentioned just before, I am on my way to try and go and see that. Right now I'm trying to make my way down the town wall that I'm standing on. What's the best part about living in Quebec City?
It has all the big city attributes, but human scale. As I was saying, you know, you can walk to things. There's no big skyscrapers. The downtown area of other cities is really not the same as our downtown area. It looks like a big village. Sometimes people say that of Quebec City. It's a big village. But you've got all the city attributes. You want to see a metal band, a folk song singer-songwriter, a good table, whatever you want from a city, you can have in Quebec. But it's human scale.
Okay, after visiting this fortress called La Citadelle, I'm now a little bit wiser on the history here. This is actually the place that is the official residence of the Governor General, which is sort of the Queen's representative here in Canada, and is in office for typically 5 years. This one's been in there for 7 years, but this is his last year. So it was a little bit about the history. It was very interesting to see this building, beautiful buildings. And if you're ever in Quebec, you should go and take that tour. I took the free tour, by the way, and we were inside the buildings and saw the different rooms in two of the buildings. Very interesting. Quebec, it also the name of the region, which is enormously big.
Yeah, Quebec, the province inside of Canada, there's 10 provinces and 2 territories. Quebec is one of the 10 provinces, and France can actually fit 3.5 times into Quebec territory. Of course, half of Quebec territory is not even civilized. You can take a car from Quebec City, drive for about 2 hours, 3 hours, and then it starts to, let's say, the civilization goes away, and you can ride to the north of Quebec for about 15 hours drive and not see a soul for hours.
But a lot of nature out there and wildlife.
Still, yes, a lot of places you can actually, like I said, drive through a small gravel road for hours without even seeing someone. And if you walk into the woods from that road and just sit there for just a few minutes so the animals can, be in confidence a bit, you can see loads of animals here. I mean, bears and moose and wapiti. And
what?
Wapiti, it's a kind of a moose. There's a big family, right? Elks and moose, and they're all in the same family. But here we've got a group of them, a smaller group of them that are called wapiti. And it's delicious with blueberries. Sorry.
You're listening to the Radio Vagabond podcast. Before we continue, I want to remind you that I have a Facebook page where I share a lot of thoughts, pictures, and videos. You'll find it by going to facebook.com/PalaRadioVagabond. And now, back to the show. Well, I've really enjoyed staying here. A lovely room in the basement here, and I've got my own private bathroom, and we share the kitchen. And you don't mind me sitting in your living room working on my computer, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you and your son.
Why, thank you, and it's same thing here. Yeah. It was nice.
Yeah. And it's very close to the old town. If you're ever in Quebec City, make sure that you stay here with Mark, because he's a nice guy, and the place is nice and it's conveniently located. I will put a link to the Airbnb site in my show notes. So here I am in the car with Mark, my Airbnb host, and This is the end of my episode here from Quebec City. I am off to my next stop, and actually Mark helped me find a ride. There's a thing where you share a car with some people, and I found a car that's going to my next stop, and Mark is taking me to the gas station where we're meeting. Well, this is normally where I mention my sponsor. Have you ever heard of a website called Hotels 25?
Nope, sorry, I haven't.
But you once in a while you use hotels, right?
Once in every 4 years.
So when it's coming up to that, I would normally before go to hotels.com, but this website, it searches all of them at the same time. Sometimes one of them has an offer that is cheaper than the other, and Hotels 25, it does it for you. You don't have to search all the different sites, so that's pretty cool, right?
I guess it's worth looking it up, that's for sure.
So, Hotel25.com.
Hotel25.com. Okay.
Was that close enough?
That was perfect.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you so much for hosting me. I've had a great time, and now that we're connected on Facebook, we'll keep in touch.
Same here, it was a pleasure.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe in iTunes or the podcast app on your smartphone. You can see pictures, watch videos, and read much more on theradiovagabond.com. Palle can be reached for interviews and public speaking gigs on mail at theradiovagabond.com.
I found my ride from Quebec through a website called Amigo Express, and it was all in French, but my Airbnb host Mark helped me find out how to find the ride, and it was very nice. It was much cheaper than the train or the bus, and in a small Honda where I was in the back seat. They dropped me off at a metro station, and now I'm on my way to my Airbnb downtown Montreal, and I'm so looking forward to that. My name is Palle Beau, and I gotta keep moving. See ya.